Exciting keynote speaker. Murray Elbourn is the Disability Inclusion Manager at Sports New South Wales and the CEO at Blind Sports New South Wales. He's an Australian Paralympic athlete for goalball. He's the IBSA Goalball World Cup captain. He's the World Games and Australian youth team's coach. And if that isn't enough, he's the National Business Manager for Fortune 500 companies, both in the US and Australia. So you've had and continue to have a quite sparkling record. He's our keynote speaker next. Over to you. You've got mute on. We can't hear you. There we go.
Rookie error straight away. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate the introduction. I'd like to start just by welcoming, to the traditional owners of the land that we meet on today. And their elders, past, present, and emerging. And I'd also like to thank the speakers that come before me, all who are relevant to what my story is in some way or another. But I'd also like to thank Emma, Janet, and the team at SSI for inviting me to speak today. So I guess my journey started with a vision challenge since birth. I was born with scarring of my corneas. And like Darren, saw Professor Bilson and used to go to the Children's Hospital at Camperdown and had a number of surgeries and just came to terms with my vision impairment pretty early. I was lucky enough to have a supporting mother who didn't limit what I did because of my low vision, and had grandparents who were also really supportive as well. And lived fairly mainstream life to the age of 7, where I went to Marion Public School or infant school for kindergarten, first class and second class. And I played T-ball for Blacktown Workers Club. And really, you don't know what you don't know. So although I knew that I couldn't see with full vision, I didn't know actually how bad my vision was. And then when I kind of got my visual acuity of around 660, I think when I was 8 or 9, I started to realize that actually I only had 10% vision. And so you kind of, again, don't know what you don't know. So I didn't have too many limits. I played soccer in the playground and just kind of did the best I could. I enjoyed my T-ball. And that gave me the grounding to, I guess, just understand that I could do things and have the opportunity to be able to do things. And then I went to a vision impaired unit for school. I went to Lincoln Public School where there was 2 classes for children, students with low vision. And then I started to understand a little bit more about my vision impairment. Started having training for mobility and orientation and mobility, and with Royal Blind Society at the time, and then started to use large print for reading and just understand a little bit more about it. Then I went to high school, and through high school I went initially to Northmead High School and again into the low vision class at Northmead High School. And then at about the age of 14, the school wanted me to go into the mainstream. And back then, there was a range of low vision units around Sydney and New South Wales. It wasn't all integrated as it is today. And so then I had to learn about a year and a half's worth of work to move from the vision impaired class to mainstream high school. And I had to do that in about 6 months. And so definitely crammed to do that. But at the same time, I developed cataracts on top of my scarring on my corneas. And so at the time I was playing basketball and rugby for the high school, and sport as always was a constant to me. And as my vision started to decrease and I lost quite a bit quickly because of cataracts, I was unable to play mainstream sport for the first time in my life, which really hit home to me. And because sport was everything to me as a 14-year-old boy. And that was a real challenge for me. So pretty much similar at the same time, or the next year in year 9, once I'd gone into the main part of the high school, I received a letter from Blind Cricket New South Wales, and offering me to come and play for the Cumberland Club. And their home ground actually was at RIDBC in North Rocks. And so I started playing blind cricket, and then met some people at blind cricket who played goalball, and then started playing goalball at the age of 17, and then never looked back. Since that time, blind and low vision sports and the adaptions of sport have been something that I've been extremely passionate about, because sport's given me an enormous amount in my life. Without sport, I wouldn't have been able to travel the world. I've initially went to China and Singapore, and then was lucky enough to captain my country at the World Championships of Goalball, or the World Cup of Goalball, in Rio, Brazil in 2002. And I've also been the national men's coach for the Australian men's team. And I've also been the national coach for both of our youth boys and youth girls teams. And we were lucky enough to win the World Championship in 2017. And that team, who beat Russia in the gold medal match, many of you teachers on the call today will have gone through that and taught those girls. So they're some of the things that sport can bring. But really today, I'm here to talk about a couple of things that have really impacted my life from a work perspective. So as Job Access talked about, and I really appreciate Job Access, I've used them on a number of occasions since returning from the United States 10 years ago, and been able to get equipment that's helped me in my work as a corporate business manager, and now as the disability inclusion manager and CEO. The adaptive equipment part is really important, but it really comes down to, I guess, the experience that you gain and the opportunities that you have. One thing that we know to be really true is that there's a lot of social isolation at the moment, both with students in primary school and high school, in universities, and then in the adult population, both the young adult population that's kind of just come out of school, or is going to TAFE, as an example, and then the more adult population that's been around and then just kind of been isolated through COVID and through other parts. So Blind Sports New South Wales really wants to talk about getting people back into a culture of activity. And sometimes when people think about Blind Sports New South Wales, they think about the traditional sports like cricket or goalball that have been around for a long time, that are, you know, pretty organised sports with pathways to represent Australia and be a Paralympian, play cricket and goalball overseas. And all of those are still true, and they're still very important to what we should be thinking about and how we should be developing people to come into those sports. But sports can be really intimidating for people with low vision. And I always love the term, the person isn't sporty enough. They're not a sporty person. And so I hear that all the time. And they're not a sporty person because they've never tried sport, because maybe they failed when they were at school, when they were 5 years old. And now they, are withdrawn. They don't want to fail at something. And so at Blind Sports New South Wales, because of that, we've really looked at alternate ways to be able to support people being active, both from a physical and mental well-being point. And then we've also thought about ways that we can increase the socialization of people being together and doing something fun that results in building friendships and meeting people, but also getting out and being part of something. So that's what I kind of want to talk to everybody today about. And I'll just tell you a little bit about my business life as well. So I was fortunate enough to work for some really good companies, Fortune 500 listed in America with Konica Minolta, where I was the national business manager. And then when I came back in 2010 from the United States, I worked for the largest energy brokerage firm in the country as the national customer relationships manager. And that wouldn't have been possible without sport teaching me the values of teamwork and, arriving to work on time or arriving to training on time, being coached and being developed, being around a team and communicating with a team and solving problems and having strategies to understand. That all relates really well to the job space. And right now that there's a big emphasis on employment of people with disabilities, and especially in the low vision and blindness sector, that's really important that people have those opportunities. So Blind Sports New South Wales wrote a grant to the National Disability Insurance Scheme and through information linkages and capacity building. And I'd love to announce here that Blind Sports New South Wales have been successful with that grant for the next 2 years to deliver services to the sector on behalf of the sector. And it's not just the traditional sports. It's definitely a little bit more than that. So we're looking really heavily on mentoring programs and boosting mentoring programs, delivering winter and summer camp experiences, both for students and for adults. And we're also looking at how we can play more of a role in creating work experience opportunities and placement opportunities for high school, TAFE and university students. And more importantly than that, hopefully links to jobs and full-time employment through those placements. We're also looking to assist organisations that would like it with opportunities to interview, opportunities to gain experience in that interviewing phase, vocational services. And it's all part of that socialisation model that Blind Sports New South Wales really value in addition to sports. So it's not your typical sports organisation anymore, although that's definitely still a part of what we do. This grant will allow us to really step out of just the sports framework and work more concisely within our partnerships, to develop those partnerships, to develop sector relationships where we can be available to go into schools, go into universities, to be able to do more. And recently, actually right now, we're in a process of delivering over 1,000 show bags to students around New South Wales. And part of that is to say that we are changing. We offer traditional sports, but we also offer social opportunities. And people can go indoor skydiving, they can go surfing, they can go indoor skiing, they can go rock climbing, and they're just some of the activities that we want to offer in that social sense. So it's really important to talk about, building friendship networks, having, better social experiences, and more importantly, just trusting yourself to be more engaged socially with society and having the confidence and the empowerment to do that. And at Blind Sports New South Wales, we've got some really amazing mentors. And actually, you're going to hear from one of them later on today, Amy Ridley. She's gone through our Goalball for Schools program as one of our ambassadors. And she's a shining light on what somebody who's gone through that experience can come out at the other end. But there's quite a few more. And so we're going to have a camp, which we'll start this program off with in January. We were supposed to have a really big Department of Education camp twice this year, but unfortunately COVID intervened. So we're really looking forward to our January school camp at Sydney Academy of Sport in Narrabeen, where our mentors who have gone through these challenges and been able to come out the other side and really have those great experiences that sport and community and friendship and social activities bring, can give back to the next generation, and also the generation of the adult space as well, who are socially isolated. So today I'm happy to take any questions. I know we're kind of running behind time, so I wanted to try and get back on schedule and scoot through some things. But I think it is really important to be able to say that you don't have to be the world's best sports person to try an activity. And so we really do encourage all the teachers on the call and all of the professionals on the call to really do that. There's one other thing I'd just like to talk about is that we'll be launching our documentary feature in November, in Inclusion Week in November. And the documentary will feature two of our board members, Matthew Formston, who's the current low vision world surfing champion, and Melissa Perrine, who's also on our board, who won 2 bronze medals at the Winter Paralympics for downhill skiing. And she has about 2% vision with a guide skier in front of her going about 110 kilometers an hour down the slope. So there's some really great footage. And then 2 of our younger participants, Alice Kingston and Michaela Kumar, who have played for Australia in the goalball. And Alice was a part of our World Championship win. They'll also be featured as well in the documentary. So we'll be launching that. Please look out for that. We're putting out trailers at the moment, but that'll be a really special documentary as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Murray. Well, we've got some questions coming in. We're going to experiment. Susan's put a hand up, so we're going to try and let Susan ask a question with her voice.
Great.
So, guys, if we can unmute Susan O'Neill right now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I would just like to ask Murray, if possible, could we have a schedule of events coming up for the year ahead at the start of the school year? Because in the past, unfortunately, I don't know why, but for some reason we get notice about events only about a couple of weeks before, which makes it impossible to get students on board and get their parents' permission. So we need to have at least 1 month's notice, if possible, in public schools to know that an event's coming up.
Yeah, definitely that has been a challenge. Obviously, this year we had planned a full calendar of events in January, and we're going to put that out, and COVID hit, and so we've had to cancel everything. But in the show bags, we have sent a year ahead calendar for the rest of this year at least, so that people know when multi-sports days are on and the camp is on in January. And so we plan to do that, obviously, for moving forward.
Oh, that's good. Can you send them to the teachers as well, the vision officers, so that we can help to initiate the kids to go to these things?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I would say that we have redeveloped our website with new technology for large print, and made our documents accessible per what the last speaker was talking about. So if anyone wants to know anything, everything is on our website, which is blindsportsnsw.com.au. And I believe that that'll be sent out as well with this recording.
Thanks, Murray. Thanks a lot for what you're doing. Bye.
No problems.
So we've got another question. So if we've got a student who'd love to attend a camp but has some physical issues, that means they may need to sit out some activities or may have a bit of pain and recovery afterwards, are you still happy for them to attend camp?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we want to look at the long-term benefits again and that socialization. So when we talk about having a camp, it's not just all sports. There's a lot of, I guess, friendship and social activities that we plan at these camps, and sport is certainly a part of it. And that's where we get our funding from to make sure that we have those sports. But there's definitely opportunities for people. We've had people with intellectual disabilities come to camp with low vision. We've had people with physical disabilities with low vision. So we're very open to that. And it's on a case-by-case basis, of course, of what the need is, but we're very open to it. And I would just like to say, for people who haven't seen these things before, we have a lot of adaptive equipment. So with me today is an adapted blind cricket ball where we bowl underarm instead of bowling overarm, and it rattles. And then we have our new sport, which is low vision tennis. And there's a tennis ball. It has a ping pong ball in the middle of it with a ball bearing, so it rattles. And the difference is a smaller net, a smaller court, and more bounces. So if you're totally blind, you get 3 bounces of the ball before you have to hit it back. And if you have low vision, you get 2 bounces before you have to hit it back. And before you serve, you ask the receiver, are they ready? And then you say play when you're about to serve the ball. And you can serve underarm or overarm. And then, of course, a lot of people have seen goalball, but this is our youth goalball. It weighs 900 grams. and it's a smaller ball so that the students can hold it a little bit better. So, we have those programs coming into school, hopefully in term 4, COVID permitting as well.
And how about younger kids, primary age kids? Can they participate in camps or other maybe day activities?
Absolutely. So what we're doing now with the show bag delivery is we're trying to organise with assistant principals of Vision to be able to combine their teams together. And in term 4, we'll come into a centralised location. We'll help provide transport so that the kids can get to that location. We've just acquired a 22-seat minibus, thanks to Variety, the children's charity. And so now we have this 22-seat minibus to be able to pick kids up from centralised locations with the teachers and take them to these venues and then do these activities with them, with the mentors, the youth mentors who have already gone and done this sort of thing. So we're really excited about those opportunities.
And of course, the funding question. Does this require NDIS funding? Does this include schools outside of the public education system, etc.?
Yeah. So the days that I've talked about where we go into schools, that's completely free. If they did want to play a sport, there is some cost to it, but they can use their NDIS funding. They can also use their Active Kids vouchers as well. So Active Kids vouchers and NDIS funding is available for what we offer as well.
There's just a question, who do the show bags go to in the schools?
So we've given them to all of the assistant principals of Vision. So we've sent out an email asking them, and for the last week we've been dropping them off, and we'll drop them off again next week before school holidays. So if you're assistant principal on this call and you haven't responded, we'd love to be able to receive your email and understand how many show bags you'd like, and then we'll get them out to you.
Now, next question. So you talked about getting, that sometimes we've got the excuse of, oh, they're not a sporty child, but it turns out at 5 years of age, they had a bad experience that reinforced them. They went into sport. And Amber's got a question that really drills into that. They've got a 6.5-year-old fully blind child. What blind sports are out there for his age to introduce him now that'll help him develop his confidence?
Yeah, look, every sport is accessible. So when we have our multi-sports days once a month, and actually tomorrow we've got a multi-sport day at Sydney Olympic Park with tennis, cricket and soccer. You could bring your child along to that. There's the mentors there who can work with the child, and all of those sports are accessible. So whilst there may not be competition at the moment, you can certainly learn the skills and make friends and do things with that age group. We have a couple of younger kids who are coming along to cricket practice now every week, and they're learning those batting and bowling skills, and they're also meeting new friends. So we would encourage any parent of a child, no matter how young, to get in touch with us to be able to talk about what the opportunities are.
Is there, this is my own question, is there a Facebook page, a mailing list, a WhatsApp group or something that people can...
So definitely. So we're on social media through Facebook and Instagram. All you have to do is search Blind Sports NSW, or go to that website, and it has all of our social media content and all of the newsletters and everything else that we do programs wise. So we encourage everybody to use the websites or link in with us on social media through Instagram and Facebook. And that's how you can contact us.
Two more questions. Questions. Okay. Where does the equipment come from? Where do you get the balls? Where do we get it?
Well, unfortunately, nothing is ever made here, which I'm trying to fix at the moment because that's a real challenge. So we bring our goal balls in from Canada and Germany. We bring our cricket balls in from India or Pakistan, and we bring the tennis balls in from Japan or Europe. So that's the challenge. Also on the website, there is an online store. So if you're a parent or you're a teacher and you'd like to buy equipment, all of this is available on our website shop.
Great. And then very relevant question, how about regional areas? What's available Central Coast? What's available everywhere else?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And this is one thing that we have a strong focus on at the moment. So on the long weekend in October, we're actually going up to Tamworth to be able to do cricket, tennis and goalball. And we're going to have a really strong focus on delivery in the regional areas. So whilst things are a bit slow at the moment, obviously through COVID, what we'd like to do is work with the NDIS delivery teams and local area coordinators to have sustainable programs that they can run, or someone within community can run on a consistent basis in regional centres, to be able to engage those kids. And then if they wanted to, play competitively, have a talent pathway to be able to bring them into, junior New South Wales teams. And we're also moving into ACT as well and doing some things in ACT.
And I'll sneak one last unauthorised question. Do people need to renew their membership annually?
Yes, there is a membership fee. It's I think for junior members it's $10, and for adults it's $25. But you do get a lot for that. And also the social activities as well. We subsidise the costs for some of that. So, for example, in a week's time, we're going indoor skiing and rock climbing, and the cost is $60 to do that, but we're subsidising 50% of it. So then it's only $30 per participant. And again, you can use your Active Kids voucher or your NDIS funding for that.
Murray, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today.